January 13th. Calling select board meeting to order. First item is additions or adjustments to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda as presented?
Can I propose a executive session under one VSA? I'd like to remember here, 313A3? Maybe?
Personnel?
Yeah.
Sure. We can add that towards the end. Are there any other additions or adjustments?
I have a question.
What's that?
Are we gonna need a future budget meeting?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
Probably not, but that if we don't, we can go over that
If
one
we
really
don't, we
quick.
don't.
Next item up is public
Exactly.
comment. Is there any public comment?
Public?
The only public here are officials.
Oh, you've got the owl there.
Yeah,
It's
it's going back and forth.
Eric wanted a little camera back.
good, he can have it.
All right, next up is the budget update and review. Tom, would you like to lead us off on the highlights, and we can take off where we were last meeting?
Changes I made since Saturday morning, which we discussed all. The last meeting was I updated the amortization schedule. You guys can't see that, but I'll pull it up on the screen.
Which is just the sheet in the, it didn't actually change anything, you just added the sheet.
Yeah, I just made a sheet that's, so I did the annual totals thing, but then I have monthly payments, so. It saves about $1,000 a year if we pay monthly, so rather than annually, although Rosemary said the last few trucks have been annually.
It saves $1,000 a year by paying monthly?
I think it does.
Wow.
I mean, we'll end up getting a loan. At least this shows, the percentage rate and everything that
And
we're
it
planning,
pulls-
and it gives.
The fund sheet pulls from here now. So if we update that with actuals, these numbers will update with it.
Cool.
Very, very exciting.
So
Yeah.
that transfers right, the purple, or
All right,
I'm not
transfer
sure which one it is, the middle one?
Or this one right
transfers
here.
right through?
this 2025 international
Yeah,
HX
interest and principal.
interest principal and is pulls from that other sheet.
Okay. And then the total,
The totals down here, which this is an interesting one. Do you guys, the welder's only $5,000. Do you want? If we put it in here, it reduces our reserves. But if we just tell Jason to buy it out of the small equipment, okay,
Well, it leads into a larger
sorry.
question of, is this, my hope as it is, a capital funding sheet that the board approves? Because if it is, you'll notice if you scroll down, Tom, the thought process was pretty much everything over $1,000 we actually budget for. We don't just throw this small equipment line in every year. Was the thought process, because I would argue that maybe a compactor should not have been
Got it.
purchased out of large equipment this year. It should have been purchased out of small equipment. But if the board does approve this sheet, obviously it will change in future years. It's the best projection, that we could do. I think small equipment line could be reduced expense wise. Right? There's no issue with pulling out of reserves in my mind. If we have healthy balances, right? And if you scroll down a little bit,
can I ask a question?
certainly.
You have this small equipment in here. And the welder is 5,017, is that being added to the total equipment purchase cost right now?
Yeah.
If you run it up, it's at top right corner. It's being added.
Okay, so that
Oh, you went
226,
too far. Yeah. You don't have the one that he sent out at 3 o'clock, do you?
I think I do. We thought it did.
No. The one that he sent out at 3 o'clock has a line right underneath the grader. For the principal.
For the welder.
Oh, you know, I think the one that I have is the one you sent out Saturday. That you
Morning, yeah.
said is, okay.
yeah,
So, I mean, looking at the estimated beginning balances. With the drop off of the backhoe. And no plans to ever replace it. If the board so chooses, we have a healthy fund balance.
yes.
And another question. The red underline 37. Says that the updated balance. Is that it's been updated, so that. 229,662. That equals the amount that's currently in the reserve fund.
That came from Rosemary.
Yeah, the amount,
I don't know if it's current to date, but when she sent it to me, that was the balance.
Yes, okay, well, yeah,
Yeah,
and that should,
that does-
should be what's on the,
yeah,
what's in the budget under.
Yeah.
Equipment reserve fund, right?
well. Oh, the 262 for the balance. The balance that I have on this sheet is 249,662. Is that what you
just
just?
20,000 more. Can't go right back to your highway
is-
reserve.
229,662.
Ah, because the 249 is the balance with last, we put 20,000.
That's. The 229, good point. The 229 is as of June 30 and we approved, or June 30. It's as of July 1, but we approved the extra bump of 20,000
Last year.
post that date.
Yes.
So
Confusing.
Rosemary says that that number is good as of 6/30/2025. So this,
2025.
yeah, so
So
assuming
the
there's no,
222, 229
is
is,
as of right now.
Yeah.
It's like, that money's there, but if there's like a catastrophe, because it was like an anticipated surplus.
That,
so that number really, this 229 that's in this capital budget is really the number that should be in.
that is the number from Rosemary, and you can
Yeah.
see it in the FY24 balance,
Yeah.
one column over,
Yes,
which brings into play the reappraisal conversation. Remember, we say, well, it's really 97,000, but we have an extra 20,000 we pumped out
Yes.
of it. It just doesn't
but
show.
right now it's really 97.
Right, so the balance here does match that.
Yeah.
229.
Yep, okay,
662, could you just verify that, Tom? I swear you're right on with it.
yeah, no, I think. it's right.
229,662, yeah,
I think it's right.
so that is updated.
So good. I think you answered my question by saying that the welder is included in the
That raised,
overall.
but it was not, so it did raise taxes by 5,000. The change I made today.
Money in, money out, how would that have raised taxes by 5,000?
Because we only put in. When you go to here. So this number jumped by 5,000, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
but your revenue would have jumped by 5,000 as well.
It does,
It should,
got it,
if
It's
it's, if
one-
it's coming in from the, if we're spending it out of the reserve fund, it should also add to the revenue. If not, we would just put it in the budget
Go down,
line item. We
right?
just expense it out of equipment
this
purchase,
221.
small.
Those numbers should be equal.
So
You
this-
have that link to highway reserve fund balance, not highway reserve fund expense. Right?
This one here. Three. That's here,
Yeah, so where's the confusion, I guess? That's the money that we bring in,
got it, this is the money
And-
we spend, so this equals this.
So you got 223,018 coming in. In
I
the,
have
in the budget.
221,923.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at it.
older one.
Yeah, I'm looking at an older sheet.
Yeah,
Somehow that doesn't add up. In cell M, oh no,
sorry.
in cell M under budget line. Like down, right there. Can you click on that? Click on that. Okay, that does add up. What does your cell N, like one down, one over? What's that one equal? Ah, that's the problem.
This-
Summary of equipment and interest. You did it right for the pickup, but not the welder.
Well, the welder, I'm assuming we're gonna pay outright, there'll be no interest, right?
For sure, we did the same thing with the pickup, 2 lines up,
So add 5,000 here.
just equals the sum of the 2 previous cells. There you go.
Got the budget done yet?
Now that adds up. I was wondering how 23 and 203 added up to 221.
I was getting confused and I'm glad that I got confused, so we walked through that.
But our revenue from the highway fund should be 226, 94106.
Now it will be,
That
because it
number,
pulls from right
And,
here.
and the expense is broken up over 2 lines.
Split between principal and interest.
And the amount that we add is based on right here.
Yeah. Which,
The annual appropriation.
if we're not replacing the backhoe, I would argue could be lower.
I'm really. I don't know how to have that conversation without Jason, and maybe this isn't the year to do it. But I would be really hesitant to not have a backhoe or a second loader, because the loader is your single most important piece of equipment in the winter. It has to run every single day to load those trucks. And so if we don't have a way to load trucks, and we don't have a way to sand or salt,
Right, just saying if we're not replacing the backhoe or planning on replacing it.
yeah,
I would advocate for leaving the amount in, because I strongly suspect we're gonna have a conversation about
Probably,
buying some other piece of equipment, whether it's a backhoe or a
probably.
bucket loader, or an excavator on track,
Mm.
excavator on rubber, or
Hmm.
You can load trucks with a
I guess that's true.
rubber tired loader, excavator if you needed to.
Yeah, it'd
mean,
be
if you had
pain, but
to.
it would be fine.
It wouldn't be the most efficient way to do it, but you could do it
Yeah.
until you get your loader fixed.
Yeah, certainly. So is the board okay with this capital equipment plan? Is the large question. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't,
I
but
think it's good. I mean, again, we might be revisiting it, but
certainly.
I certainly think that would you like a motion to
No,
approve this?
I just, if somebody's disapproving of it, they need to say now.
I'm approving.
Okay. So we can go back to the proposed budget, and that answers your question that it doesn't actually raise taxes.
Right.
But while we get down to highway expense, yeah, it's gonna be in the 380s, that's my guess.
352.
Yeah.
350.
No,
General highway, general government highway.
go down to the small equipment purchase.
For
I guess it's farther than I thought, yeah.
406 and 407.
Yeah, so do we really need to budget $5,000 in expense for small equipment? If everything over $1,000 is in the capital highway reserve fund sheet?
I think that, I mean, that's kind of my question. It's either. It feels redundant to have 5,000 there and to budget 5,000 for a welder. So it's either one or the other, doesn't
Right.
matter, right?
I'm perfectly comfortable dropping that to say,
$1,000.
I was gonna say 2,000, what's the board think?
2,500.
15.
We're going up, we're going the wrong.
Do I have 3,000?
1,500. Don't split it.
I mean, you come in for some teeth for the fucking
Boy, it doesn't take much
something
to,
or another.
Yeah.
We're on video, Mark,
the-
in case you forgot.
a new set of welding torches. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not, it doesn't take long at all to come up with
He said what I thought he said, right?
You're
No,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, if the board,
Pointed out, Mike, I appreciate it.
if the board's comfortable with 2,500, I think good. We got 2,500 going once, going twice.
Well, 2,500 is better than 5,000.
I'll get behind you
Quibble
3
over a few
times.
$100 bucks.
Yeah. We
But
got-
that's not actually to try to limit what they need. It's just bringing what they need, a lot of the larger what they need into
Yeah,
the eye.
yeah, the bigger stuff. I
It
think.
helps the overall budget too a little bit.
And, you know, things are gonna come up and it's gonna come to the board and make an argument to go buy stuff, whether it's in the budget or not, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
We have something in there.
Yeah.
Something better than nothing.
And what's a set of chains cost nowadays for a truck?
I don't think they're that, they're maybe $1,000,
Who knows, right?
bed chains are 2,500.
Hmm.
No, 1,200.
That would be under repair. Outside repair and parts.
Oh, I did talk to Brazos about fuel oil, and this 50,000 is right. So he gave me all of the. I have a building sheet now, I don't know if you guys remember, there was like all the items that need to be repaired, I won't bring it up now, but. Now we're gonna track gallons per year at each building, so then we can actually budget. For the cost of oil.
And as complicated as this is. We're building a budget for 26 based on numbers from,
Last year's fuel prices.
based on numbers from 23. But we do potentially have a MERP grant that's gonna increase efficiency down there. We
Yeah.
shoot for 46.
Yeah, because fuel is gonna go down this next year.
I don't know if it's gonna go down or
I
up.
bet it's gonna go down. Drill, baby, drill. And it's gonna go down. Why don't we stick it at 45?
No, what's the rest of the board think? I threw 46
I
out
don't
there.
think it's
So we
gonna go
had been
down by-
budgeting 42.5 and spending 70.
No, that 70's messed up because we had a year's worth of incorrect fuel cards and we threw an extra 10,000 to the village to make it right.
And,
We spent 53 the year before.
We did.
and. Yes, so I think. At $3 a gallon, it's 50,000.
But
Well,
if
it should
the,
be lower than
if the
that.
MERP grant does
Yeah,
help with heating fuel.
Yeah.
It would lower it by a little bit is my thought.
Yeah.
Fuel could go to $6 a gallon tomorrow and this would be blown to smithereens.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
there's a really funny thing with fuel, because you purchase so much at once, they're big bills. So if you get a fuel delivery on January 1st, the next year, you know, that blows the next year's budget.
Let's drop it to 45 and move on.
What, don't do that yet. What's the rest of the board think?
What do you think, Peter?
I can't imagine fuel going down by any significant amount.
Oh, of course it is. We're paying too much for it is, we're paying too much for it right now. A lot of people are getting better deals than that.
Somebody wakes up and have a conscience, but, yeah. Yeah, and things are a little stable in an oil producing region, unstable. I wouldn't count on it going too far.
No, of course it will. We're the biggest producers of oil in the world.
For,
We're
for
gonna be,
clarity. My $4,000 drop is not based on the price of fuel going down. It's based on our municipal energy resiliency program coming through and having a more efficient fuel system down there, as well as better door seals, I believe was one of them.
There's a thermostat, there's. I think there's like something with the doors,
Yep, there was something, so that's a difficult projection.
which Jason does not want.
I'll give you the 1,000. We'll stick at 46.
You can get behind it, but we need some other
I'll
callers
I'll
here.
bite, I'll bite for 46.
Yep,
me too.
Say $4,000 right there.
It's not a conscious attempt to under budget, it's trying to,
They don't have a programmable thermostat down there yet?
Look at us, we saved 6,500 already.
Um,
Haven't even hardly started.
for tonight. Are there any other numbers that you had questions about, Tom?
No, the paving, so before you guys got here, Evan and I talked about just putting a number in for paving, since the grant doesn't come in till February. So we used the price per thousand and budgeted the amount to do Wilson Road, that project, and at least we can say that this is why we budgeted this much. That's the price of Wilson Road. But the hope is to do more, but we won't be able to tell until after the budget's finalized, so. But it's
Alright.
money in, money out. It doesn't-
In this version, you have, the one that I looked at from the Saturday, there was not 12,000 under the maintenance, but there is in this one.
Yeah.
So,
Is there planned blacktop maintenance?
I think he's trying to talk to some crack sealers. We have some crack sealing done. But he wants to try to coordinate with other towns, so when they come, it's cheaper if they do like Hyde Park and at the same time.
It probably doesn't take long to go through $12,000.
it doesn't, and I, you know,
Is that what we pay for the share roads? Down Railroad Street out of,
I have no idea.
you know, the painted,
The Sharrows,
share roads.
Sharrows.
Sharrows, share roads.
share arrows,
You can see the,
share the road arrows.
yeah.
I also, you know, I guess this would be a board decision when we come to it, but, I like, especially like Hogback Road and, you know, there are roads where I really think painting the fog lines are a good thing. And I say that more as an elderly person whose vision is failing and, those fog lines can be really useful.
Very.
If it saves somebody's life, I'm all in, but, you know, that's probably a greater,
The striping, yeah.
the white lines on the road.
You guys, I mean, I haven't seen any bills for it this year, but you guys use the state for that, right?
The state does the center lines for your class twos, but they don't do fog lines even on class twos. They only do center lines. So even if we wanted to do, you know, fog lines on class twos, that would be something out of our budget. And in the past, that 12 was where we paid for that to get done.
Gotcha.
Why, do we do center lines on class two?
We don't, on class
No,
twos, the state, every other year,
They come up and do Clay Hill and stuff?
yes, every other year, they do center lines on class twos.
Do
And
you
if,
like them doing that? My
Do I like
father worked for AOT in New York. He hated center lines on class two. Because it pushed people to the edges and took years off the pavement.
well, I really like it because I think our roads are fairly wide, but also if you're painting the white lines on the side,
Yeah,
you know, it's a standard road width, so you may end up with a really skinny shoulder.
Yeah.
You know,
my
but,
new car likes them. It just, I can take my hands off the wheel and take me down the road.
well, we're all gonna have driverless cars before too long, anyway, I hope so.
You put your hand on your rear end, it will grow there before that happens.
Listen, you're talking to a man with one eye over here. We want him in a car with big seats.
Love to see Mike when he was a younger man at work. I bet you were a hilarious story.
No, you're on camera.
Yeah,
Right.
but I didn't say the word you said.
Yeah, well, bottom line is we got 12,000 in there, I'm sure we can spend it if we want to.
Yeah, and you said you had rec matching expense
Everything
and
except,
revenue line programs.
yeah, everything except for donations.
Yep.
So there's the three things that don't have a match of field maintenance, but we dropped 3,500. And I think we'll even be able to drop it more next year by having our public works do it instead of contracting out. That's gonna save a lot, and then we have $1,000, our ski club program, we pay for volunteer passes and rentals. And then we have our mileage, but those are the only two things that.
Yep.
Self-funding. And so far, so good. She's doing.
Yep.
Yeah, her model is working.
So I probably just don't understand this, but under, I think you talked about this last time, Tuesday Night Live revenue. And it's peanuts and it's not big money, but there's 17,300 in the revenue and 17,950 in expense. These sound equally, Kelly?
They do, and you know, Rosemary told me to. She said, Tom, put estimated final, add 10,000, and I guess what I should do is probably add the exact amount so they match. I think that was probably, because they have a reserve fund,
Right,
so that's probably me following her too literally, and then you bring the point up.
Because if they're not, if the expense and revenue aren't the same, you're either gonna raise more in taxes than you need, or you're gonna add to the cash on hand,
Yeah,
one or the other, right?
I was gonna ask about Tuesday Night Live.
17,950.
Yeah,
And 17,300 on it.
right, it's the 650.
Yeah.
Which you had already said is peanuts, but it should.
It is peanuts, but I mean, it's $650 that we either
I think you're in the wrong column.
20
Um,
Oh, I see.
Column AN. We're expecting $17,300 coming in,
So that-
down.
Yeah, I see that here, but we have to add it.
We've got to add
$650.
$650 somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a simple way to do it. And that
Duncan, do we own some of that solar field up there?
way,
Town owned or rent panels or anything like
Yes.
that?
we don't actually own any of it. We take part of the output of it.
Green lamp.
Green lantern.
Yeah.
Solar.
Does it show up in our expense?
They do it on the municipal meter, don't they?
I think it comes off of our electric bill.
So you get it as
Absolutely.
a credit, yeah.
There's no knowing what kind of credit.
We don't get a check and
I
then pay
know,
the full
yeah,
bill.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just didn't know whether it shows up anywhere in our world at all.
It doesn't show up in the budget, and that's a really interesting point. You know, is there a value in,
At some point, we must have invested in that,
Yes,
given them money to get some output.
yeah, and I don't remember, I think that was happening as I was getting off the board, but it does. I'm pretty sure it shows up as a credit against the municipal, the town side,
I don't
because the
think
village.
we don't need to go into this right now.
Village
Tom.
did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not right now.
we just got the invoice item. Yeah, Marla actually is the one who handles it in village, because it has to adjust. The village actually takes it and adjusts it on their end, the electric rate for them.
Where are you gonna put that 600 and change?
I put it in,
Miscellaneous income?
sponsors,
Okay.
they're gonna have to,
At least shows self-funding.
So that's put to bed then.
Are there any other items? Did you get the county tax adjusted?
I called today and. So that was the preliminary number that comes in the mail. And I just. I was gonna sit there, I called today and left a message, but they have to update it based on, I think the grant, the formula based off the grant.
Yeah,
Yeah, we typically don't know the actual county tax bill until
Yeah.
after we approve these
And
budgets.
except for the last 2 years, we've got it perfect. Down to the dollar.
I think as soon as,
Huh.
I'm sure by
Imagine that.
now they know it, we just haven't got the letter in the mail to say exactly the exact amount. So this was like the preliminary one that's waiting approval,
Gotcha.
and then. I did update the sheriff. The dispatch.
Did you update that with the higher number or the lower number?
Lower number.
I think that's the lower number.
I just pulled it off I can pull up my email if you want, but I just pulled it off the one that they came in a second.
Yeah,
And you had it right in your email.
which helped a little bit.
And So that got done. The fire department, Eric had no information. I guess they have three options to discuss tonight at their meeting upstairs. And of the three, we'll change that number, so there's no. We don't know what that's gonna be.
Right
but
now, you're carrying the 3.3 though.
I did, I upped it to, Evan had said, you thought it was 3.3, so I changed it from 3 to 3.3 just to be conservative.
Yeah. And we'll hope that that comes down, right?
Probably go up.
So they're looking at three different proposals, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the differences between them.
No, we never see them.
It'll be magic. While you're right there, your percent, like in your notes AP column, can you click on that? Not over in your AP column,
AP,
yeah. So like, can you go up to the subtotal for, yeah, right above the 2.45? This is where like some of them are right and some are not.
I think I upped it, I went through those today.
You did those today, okay, that's, so in your updated version, those are all the AN, they're not in the AK. Reference. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And all of the cells below the subtotals. Like if you see the percent change 25 to 26. Go down to, you have a total, subtotal there, go left one and down one,
This one,
yeah.
just delete it.
Does the board want those?
which one?
Well,
Which
can
one
you
do you want,
can you undo that? The dollar value below the subtotals. So it's supposed to be a percent change from last year on the total of the category.
Yeah.
Do you want those or you just want them removed? Whole divided by zero drives me nuts.
The divided by zero is, yeah, you can eliminate the divided by zero anywhere where it comes up and in the,
Well,
I think in
that just has to be had to be shifted up to row 154 for 153 from 154. Like just do undo.
yeah.
See how it's referencing AN, no, go down.
So on the,
It's referencing AN 155, AK 155.
Yeah,
It should be 154, 154.
that's what this one is right here.
because
So
things
that
got-
was just a copy paste?
What I do is I do the formula on the top one and then drag the formula down,
Yeah,
so it puts the percentage to the
so
right.
just delete those then. Great. You can just clean it up.
Then it would be at every.
Yeah, we don't have to do that all tonight. It's just kind of.
Yeah, and I would suggest that that'd be a great thing for Lydia or Susan. I would love
Anybody.
to have Susan or Lydia proof this.
That,
because-
Susan's
My
gonna
hope,
be she's the,
Okay.
yeah.
My
that's-
hope is we can
Proofer in chief,
And I
she's
think
really good.
I would, if we can approve it tonight, get to a place and then have her or get like, so it's one decision left, but she needs to go through it, cause we're gonna find, there could find things that have to decide on the 20th, so.
They always,
yeah.
there's always something.
Is there anything large
that.
the board wants to talk about before we get into reservations for cash on hand?
Where do we have all the money to fix this building?
The building and grounds fund, okay,
Right, but where is it in there? The maintenance,
it's on the bottom.
the 28,000? No,
You,
I'm trying to find it
be
now.
under buildings and grounds, so
There's another one of these kicking around right over there.
it's gonna be line 240. Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah,
240?
buildings and grounds capital expense, the 25,000.
This. So it should show, and then there should be revenue for that somewhere too.
Line 240?
Yeah,
Building capital expense.
Yeah, and here's the offset as.
yeah. And the thought process, correct me if I'm wrong, was the 30,000 that we have this year, if we can get the AC fixed. Will be done this year, and then the 25,000 is a hopefully accurate estimate on half of what the clock tower is for 2026.
Yeah. We had a verbal quote of 25,000. Brian Rolanitis went up there last year. You remember when we had a rainstorm and it,
Yeah.
The village is handling that. We're budgeting money.
exactly,
So the 25 would be our share, half of
yeah,
our share of the total cost.
yeah. It's for a fix of a leak. Like that.
No, that needs, is that just to fix a leak or to put new clapboards on that and get that all squared away?
Oh, put new flat,
It'd be, yeah, the whole.
The whole business,
yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know, we really
I
should
hope
be,
so.
we really should be talking about what we've got cooked up before we get too far on that. You know, that's gonna be at a different time, not tonight, but.
We're budgeting for it. And if we don't end up using it, we won't bring money in, then money won't go out.
Right, I understand.
Seems like that's flood related.
If
The
flooded.
water get that high?
Are we ready to
It
talk
was
about
raining in the flood.
Yeah.
cash on hand reservations? I'm gonna take that as a yes.
Yeah, yes.
So personal thing here,
What lines are these?
um,
500?
can we do reserved for other purposes as the placeholder for whatever there is over an even number? Does that make sense? So reserved for other purposes is just gonna equal the total, which is 2,367,503 minus everything else. No idea. So that 876, can you just do a manual enter? It's gonna minus the sum of those. That's not gonna work. And where the 867 is, click on that. Or 186, sorry. Just hit 100, nope. Yeah, delete it and enter 185,000 fictitiously. Okay. Now you gotta go back to that. It's not that sum.
oh, these are all pluses.
Yeah. And your first number shouldn't be a manual enter, it could be a cell. That's what I was saying, it equal to sum. That 236, 765, delete that.
The,
Cell AL 500 minus. Enter.
the 501.
Is it 501?
Realize that insurance companies are a little
Insurance companies want.
Rule the world.
Yeah, I sure do.
Looking at this insurance line.
Well, I don't really understand what's
Start
going on
getting
here.
doctors
I'm just gonna start all over here. What, I guess the other question is, does everybody know like what you're doing?
That's a really
Yeah.
big question.
That they,
No, you don't want to subtract anything. Or,
Do you know what you're doing?
yeah, I do. Like, I just wanna like, just do it and then not think about it. Instead of, I'm like following directions and that's like the problem, right? If I just like. Do it, then it's not a problem.
beautiful.
It's like 30 ways to skin a cat.
Like, what it,
Yeah, but at least everything will change as we move.
how much is in that line? I can't, is it 185 to reduce tax?
185,000 reduced taxes right now.
There's
Okay.
186.
Buildings and grounds, nothing. Reappraisal 15, capital equipment 10. Grant match reserve fund 5. Industrial park 0, and tax anticipation reserve fund at 20. Does 20 get us close to that 10%?
Very close.
That's
We scroll down, at the end of this year, we're at 320. That's gonna put us at 340 and 10% is like I think this budget is 359, 3.59.
yeah.
And typically, what do we like to have in that?
Can have up to 10%.
That's how they, reserve fund article was worded.
Yeah.
I think we should make. It would, next town meeting, we should probably talk about asking the voters to allow more and then. Go 50%, make it like 50 years.
So where I'm sitting. Is we don't. Based on the capital equipment fund we just looked at, we don't need to chunk an extra 10,000 into it. But do we need? Some money allocated for industrial park expenses?
Good question.
Is any of Randall associated with industrial park expenses? So you payroll.
He's already in there, so.
We have an industrial park reserve, we have 75,000 set aside already,
Reserved from last year.
right here.
Mhm.
And actually that 9249, if you look at the spreadsheet that we use to do the bond vote, the 9249 is also part of that. Part of our match, basically. So both of those numbers are basically part of the proposed match.
Do we anticipate going out to bond in 26? We don't know.
You're gonna wanna spend all your money first before you bond, because you don't want
Yeah.
to have any interest, right? So you wanna we'll probably do the revolving loan fund first, right? Use that money up and then bond for the
I-
last part of the project.
That conversation's dead.
Yeah, we haven't, we're not using them.
No.
But we do have, we've got 548,000
ARPA,
in ARPA, we've got that 75 and 92.
85,000, yeah,
So. I mean, that'll get us.
through this year anyway.
Right down.
It's just until it's probably bond right before construction, and then we'll have a 2 months construction timeline with a, so that would be the least amount. Use the bond right away, and then we'll get the grant back, 800,000.
I think 2 months is probably optimistic, but it's okay.
Very optimistic.
Very
Don't be
much.
negative.
So cash on hand, can we go back up to that?
Yeah. The reservations or the actual cash on hand?
The reservations, the actual cash on hand is just a formula. What's the board wanna do? I think. We were talking about needing $20,000 in the reappraisal reserve fund, but we don't have to start paying for that till 2027, so I'm saying $10,000 towards that.
This is a good.
I'm fine with the $10,000 at the capital equipment fund, because we probably will be talking about it. I would put $10,000 in the grant match reserve fund.
Make the 5,010.
Yeah,
Can I do this on the side for?
sure.
games?
Yeah, you could even put my name on the column if you want. So I would do 10 there.
And then 10 here.
Yeah, it'd be 10, 10, 10.
How'd that percent get in there? Did you put that there?
It
That's
wants
a lot
it.
of them.
Did you,
It wants it.
Just
There
change
you
to
go.
sell the currency.
did you do that?
What you did. but
Why
you
would I?
got up to
I haven't touched any of
100,000%.
it.
I
Ever.
have no idea where that came from. This thing does drive me nuts sometimes.
It's a short drive.
It's very short.
Okay, I would do 10, 10, 10.
10, 10.
As well as industrial park expense. I would have a buffer of 10 if we run over. I know it doesn't get far. Tax anticipation reserve fund, I do 20. And that would just be the remainder.
Did you do that? Where's that percentage? 175.
So the way you've got that set up now, the bottom line is,
Reserved for other purposes is just the remainder of cash on hand
okay,
minus whatever we enter manually at even numbers.
so if we put all of those numbers in, that number's still gonna stay 1765.
Yes,
Where is
quick math in my head. That's still gonna say 1765.03.
I can live with those reservations.
That's a lot more cash on hand than I originally wanted to put towards budget.
I recognize that. You're being very big about this.
I'm eating crow here.
You know what I want it invested in high yield. Account.
Wait, is Village done?
I'm done with the votes.
I hope that you,
You've had it with them, right?
when you write your resignation letter, are you gonna resign from the town first or the village first?
Does it matter?
Does.
I don't know if that's pertinent to tonight's meeting.
You didn't like losing the vault, did you?
He's in there, he's locked in there.
How's the rest of
Grouped
the,
in there.
how's the rest of the board feel about those proposals?
That looks like a nice warm coat, Rosemary.
I think it's-
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah.
Mark?
Mike,
I'm,
Mark,
It seems
just
all
as happy.
fungible, right? I mean, we just did this.
Well, it is. I mean, the only part that's really real about that is the if you
That
go up
100
131,000, we're pretty sure that that's a good number.
that 175,000, I believe we're bound to.
We will be, but if you scroll up just a couple of cells, that 131,066, that's the available uncommitted cash on hand.
Right,
That's the only number
That's-
in that that's really real.
It's real. The rest of
Yes.
this is
The rest is all estimates.
funny money. We
Yeah.
can do whatever we want.
so we're proposing that
If we do
have
this,
$40,000 left over this year, guaranteed.
Yes. We'll need at least 40,000.
It will need to happen.
Yeah,
our,
Does that mean that next year we'll have a lot less to put again to lower taxes? That's what makes me nervous. If
We don't.
shoot our,
we don't really know.
Likely,
We don't really know.
but that's impossible to predict right now.
well, it won't be.
We're
much.
projecting 26 based on the close of 23 right
I
now, and you're
know.
asking about 27?
Can I make,
Nothing you're gonna get blamed for.
I am,
Yeah, well, it's gonna be, it's gonna be,
can I make a suggestion on just a wording? Where you're looking at I think it's probably down where okay, so right there, you've got that column just above where your cursor is. Could we call that, and you may have to do it in the next cell up, can we call that estimated?
Yeah, so
because we won't know for sure until we actually.
remember you guys asked me to
Say
move
yes.
money from last year up?
Mhm.
That was how I couldn't really do that until June 30th, so I didn't really know how to show that.
It's got a placeholder to show
Yeah, I mean,
something.
we actually probably don't even need that column. But it doesn't hurt to show it because that shows
Yeah,
what I propose, but if we call it estimated. I'd just be happy if it was.
when the bill's
estimated
due in
rather
the
than-
first Q of 24, that probably needs to be updated, cause it's
This is all ready, I did this.
That's all good.
just the wording.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
First quarter of,
25.
yeah, the bill.
Yeah,
due
25,
is,
26, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. So that actually is all accurate.
Yeah, instead of having a manual, I made them formulas.
Cool,
So they pull.
beauty. I didn't even have to mess with that again. I like that.
Well, next year you'll have to, the only thing you have to change is the cell description,
Yeah,
because we'll be one
yeah,
column over.
Yeah, and this
Next
is
year.
all the salaries is interesting, 'cause you have to like combine the three and then,
yeah, divide by,
Divided by 4.
yeah.
um. What are we looking at?
Just look, it's not great. Just jumped 8.3%.
How?
I don't know.
We reduced income by 10,000. We reduced spending by 6,000.
Yeah.
So our deviation is,
6,500 actually.
okay,
This dropped by 16.
that drop,
by,
well, it was 86, right?
It was 186, yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
75, so,
11,000.
but we also dropped 6,500 in expense off highway, right?
Yeah.
And we added revenue producing it live to equal out. And that was $650 potato for Duncan.
Yeah.
You're the one that said it was small potatoes here. The numbers themselves aren't adding up to a 3% in my mind. You added revenue and expense to David, right?
Especially if you cough on me.
Yeah. I promise I don't have
Yeah,
anything
so
bad.
that wouldn't have changed anything. Although, is that in the formula? Well. Up. Oh, that 298, click on that and see what the. Yeah, there you go. Has to go to AN 63. So now what are we looking at realistically? There we go.
4.3. 4.64.
You're looking at me like I'm dumb.
No, I'm looking at you like,
4.384. Is that what it is?
that you have the skill set that you should really take advantage of. The Excel skill set.
He does.
Yeah,
I'm not good at Excel.
these are mine.
Well,
I round everything up. I
it's a
don't do.
terrifying thought that you're the best person in the room then if you don't think you're good at it.
Yeah,
Was Beth really good at it?
Beth was too good. She moved so fast that nobody could keep up with her though.
So now we're
I kept-
talking,
I
we're
kept up
talking
with it, but I couldn't read
4.384.
Correct.
4.384%. But does that equal what's down below?
No, it's slightly off and it's because Duncan will explain, we don't have the tax sheet in front of us. But it has to do with the veterans exemption. It has to, there's $15,000 difference that we add to our tax bill. That makes it slightly different. 1,500.
1,500 or
There's the-
15,000?
I think it's 15,000 because it's 0.006.
Duncan needs to explain that, and by the time this hits the town report, I want them to be the same.
Are the veterans
So it's 4.31.
dying off? No, these aren't World War II vets, are they?
These are disabled veterans exemption.
I have no idea.
Where's Duncan going?
Who we give to?
Disabled veterans get $40,000
Well, we need,
off their assessed value.
Do you have the tax sheet with you?
just
Do
in throughout the
If you're fifty
state.
percent or more,
you have the tax
disabled.
sheet with you?
I think I do.
I was explaining to Tom. The percent difference, it should say. 25 to 26, right? Maybe, it doesn't matter. That percent change in the tax rate. Before it hits the town report, I'd like it to be equal to the same percent change as above. And what was the difference?
That's
last year?
pretty,
We did this on the
Specific.
phone the other day.
But you knew what it was last year, after you thought about it.
I
you
did
came
think
back
about
to
it.
Another meeting.
one of the reasons that it's not exact same is when we develop the budget and set the tax rate, the actual amount that we set the tax rate on is higher. So last year, for example, we had an article, it was $1,500 that added to the number.
It's like, it's this thing right here. There's 14,000 for whatever reason.
It's because we need to enter our corrected tax rate, right?
So we have the water, we
Actually,
have
yeah.
some of the grand lists that we vote off. So that equals about this much money. There's a veterans exemption. And then there's the local agreement tax.
Yeah. Well, that becomes the local agreement tax, the voted exemptions.
Yeah, so that 14,500 is not in our budget, but it. So. Yeah, you got
Is
it.
that
That's the difference.
last year's or this year's?
This is the one that we talked about on the phone that Rosemary sent us.
Okay,
So our tax rate last year was,
Last year was 0.906, 9026 right here.
yeah,
I think it was the 0.9085, wasn't it?
I agree with you. Total local tax, 0.9085.
Yeah, because you gotta add,
can't be
you gotta,
true, it's
you
missing
gotta
the
add the
signature.
local. The
Yeah.
local plus the
Yeah,
tax rate.
That's
So
right.
I think it's the point.
so if we take the amount that we budget and you add this 14, assume it's the same, right? Because values shouldn't, there's no reappraisal, it's 14,510. They should match. I think that's what we had.
Can you go back to what our tax rate was last year in Excel?
So if you look, Evan, if you look at that, 22,081,96 on the bottom right,
Yeah,
that's the actual amount of grand list. That's, if you multiply the grand list times the tax rate, you'll end up with the 22,081,96,
yeah,
which is the
Is-
number that should show up at the very top of that budget,
Absolutely. And
which
that's-
I think we already did.
So
right?
the estimated final is the 2208. But we budgeted 2193 because
Right,
we're shorting ourselves 15,000, so we're making the whole town has to raise an additional 15,000 to offset the agreement.
which could all be corrected in the bottom if our corrected tax rate for last year's entered, not our proposed tax rate. Right?
I pulled this off the tax bill, I think, but maybe I should do that again.
No, no, right there. That's not the 25 tax rate.
This is the proposed tax rate is 819.
and that's the actual.
That's
tax
the
rate.
actual tax rate. And so if we go on like, let's pull up the
That's
tax.
0.9026. Didn't we say it was 9.25?
Well, I got that off of this.
Well, I thought we said it was 0.9085.
That's what he's just saying, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was
I don't know.
there we go. So if we pull tax bill up, right,
I got, yeah,
tax rate that is 0.926, so that's why I put that in there. And that 0.0060, that's our local agreement. So
Which when you add those two up, you get
you get
0.9086.
5, right, 6.
so we just came full circle on that. Did anyone see that? So we proposed. There's three things happening.
I
I'm
think you're,
trying to
over-
find
I
that
think you're
sheet.
overcomplicating it.
We proposed, we have 9026 as the tax rate. That's what we pay on our tax bills. And then we have a local agreement rate right here, is 0.0060.
which adds up to 0.9085. Right,
Yeah. Sure.
So if we enter that,
What?
So what we should,
No, I see.
The actual
I see
tax rate.
6, And
0.9085,
we
there's
live,
the 0.9026.
and you
there's-
add,
You add the local,
In
you
last
add the
year's.
local options,
so,
point,
you
point
could,
oh six oh.
then how do you get a
Oh.
5 in there? 6 up. Should be a 6.
It's probably in the decimal place. It's got
but you have a,
500 to the right.
Okay.
you have an
No,
estimate
that's
percent
just, I was
change
just starting at the right hand side and saying there's gotta
of
be.
3%
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
3.6. And what is it up above?
this is our current, this is what we're proposing to raise in taxes. And what we should do is this equals this. Plus. 0.0060, that's our local agreement, enter. And just make sure we got the right decimal, yeah.
Did you go to college for this?
No, I don't want to do it. Yeah, I mean, having to do it. But it looks like we're gonna have 0.9475. It's gonna be our. What the actual effect.
So
is.
if your percent change is based on that, does it equal the same? I just want to make sure that's the same before we go to the town report.
Oh, all right, let me just type it in, you know what it is, 0.9475. And then we know that this is gonna be. 0.9. 085, is that correct?
Yes, 0.9085.
And then this here. You want AJ,
You can just drag the formula over.
AJ 554. Oh, this is interesting,
Because it's based on the difference.
yeah.
How about I look at that? Or somebody does. I just want it to be accurate.
You want the percent down there to equal the percent
Yes,
at the top, and the amount
Yes.
to be raised by taxes.
I
What
think that'd
what
be
an
convenient.
unreasonable request.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want-
gee.
I want,
Top and the bottom to be the same.
I want
There's a lot
confusion
going on.
gone. And Tom's losing me now.
But I think that's where it is. I think that's what I figured out last year was it's the difference between what we actually raised in taxes and the actual tax rate versus what was budgeted for the tax rate. So
Yeah,
you have to adjust in both
So at
places.
the end of the day, what's our percent tax rate increase?
I have to go up to the top. This
So-
one's 4.315.
Well, that's what it said down there.
4.38.
Big. So it's one or the other, right?
No, it's not. That's not how math maths.
I think it's right, I think it's split the difference, right?
Yeah. It's gotta be one or the other. I just,
Yeah.
I'm not absolutely sure which one it is, but.
And we don't know where the difference is in all our columns. We don't know what's making that difference.
We do, that's this sheet right here.
I think it's last year actual versus this year projected, and you don't have the
Right.
point.
And they're
Point
not,
one
they're
six
not
this year.
exactly.
So
So
at
the
the end of
0.06.
this, at the end of the
Last year
day,
actual versus this year.
the rest of
projected.
the
I
board,
think that's what it
peaceful
is,
with
but
one of those numbers. 4.384, Michael,
I think it's I think it's that one. so.
you're peaceful with that number?
yeah,
What-
don't mess with the formulas right now.
I know, I'm almost wondering, what if I take it here, what if I do AM instead of AK?
It's not really too bad
Oh,
considering.
Duncan, are you following that?
So what's the
I
formula?
would argue that he's correct.
I wanna take this, I wanna go, I wanna add,
The
I wanna
percent,
take this. This is a little nutty, but I'm doing it, I'm going for it, guys, we can always control Z. Plus, what's that number, 14,500?
no.
Well, bear with me all the way through to make up for it. 14,500,
That was 600.
and we want to minus A M divided by A N. So this is our local agreement tax factored in, which is factored into that one as well. Did
Yeah,
you do that? What'd you do?
the formulas.
I think you are right, though. I think all the other formulas are gonna be a n minus a
Yeah,
k. In this case, it's gonna be a n minus a plus a m.
AM.
How do we
divided by-
factor in that local agreement into the estimated, into the proposed?
It's
It's there.
it's in the estimated final.
Yeah,
It's in that
It's in
number.
this one, but how do we put it into this one, I guess?
just control Z it,
We don't.
control Z.
One would argue that we probably should, but we've never,
That's what I'm trying to do.
famous
right
last
now.
words, we've never done it that way before.
Alright,
Basically,
so click on that formula. It should be AN minus AM divided by AM.
Divided by.
Oh.
I
But
think
isn't it divided by AN? No, it's AM.
I wanna do 14,510. Let's remember that for a second. Do. Equals. This. Plus. Right,
It's.
so then we're gonna do. A and.
Divided by.
4.355.
What,
move your plus.
I can't see the purple.
1.5, so we're 4 off.
This one, but this might not be right too. I mean, cause we. What's this?
We don't need to go into fiddling this detail.
Yeah,
This
Yeah.
percent change, so we should be,
you're right, we should adjourn.
this should be divided by this.
We,
and
we
not divided
we have
by-
more stuff on the
So
agenda.
do it.
Or,
If it's quick.
We're in the roots of the weeds right now.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But I think you've got the basic idea if you get it right.
104%. I think you reverse those.
We'll make this.
I think that's to be 548 instead of 553.
Yeah, and then this one is 548.
Oh.
Oh, the 553,
Right there.
highlight them and we'll just deal with them later. They're not gonna change the budget, they're just gonna change.
What's our total reserve fund number?
That's interesting.
It's close to $1 million.
It's not bad.
It's real money.
It needs to be invested. It needs to be invested. We should be getting.
Bring in more money, Mark.
High,
That would.
high interest. That's yes, feral cash sweeps.
Let's, I think we are crazy not to.
It's automatic.
It's at least
All right,
are we moving on to four, Mr. Chairman?
40 grand.
I think we're on to articles.
Yep.
Before we skip by the budget. Is the board in preference of sending this to Susan for review and any other employee that's willing to review formulas and all of that?
Is there any other numbers you want me to change, or you guys? Would you vote this okay if Susan approved it?
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's the question.
I guess
like,
the question is, but we are generally peaceful with the 4 point, whatever,
And then,
355.
other than Susan, are there any other directive? I guess that's what I was asking, is like, is there anything else you want me to research down into, dig on?
I would have yourself and her go through it with a fine tooth comb and see if you can
Yeah,
find any mistakes.
we'll meet it tomorrow anyways.
Give it all your highlights.
I'm gonna make them all purple.
Any notes that aren't needed, any of the divide by zeros that aren't needed, any of that.
And I went through, I adjusted 23, but I noticed some numbers are missing that are in NIMRIC that are not in this. And so,
I don't even think that's gonna show up in the town report budget.
okay, that's what we're.
Double
going
check it, but
Yeah.
I don't think 23 is even gonna show up in there.
over. The minute
So
you
it's
guys
probably
say
not.
go on this, then that allows me, but I still have to do all these sheets. For the town report,
Right.
and so, but I don't wanna touch those until you guys say go.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah.
what do we need? What do you need from Evan to say go?
Just any last minute directives. I'm still gonna work on paving with Jason to try to get that number more accurate. But other than that,
that's gonna be money out.
exactly,
Yeah.
doesn't change
If
it.
I figure out the issue with that formula, I will email it.
Perfect.
Email me what you got tonight.
You know, for budget purposes, I mean, the discussion about what we pave and how much it costs. That's a future discussion, I think. We're good for budget, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're covering the cost of Wilson Road. There is intent and we're doing the best we can to be accurate, but it does change a little bit.
Yeah.
Our note for that tandem might be at 4.5% interest. It might be at 7. So, sir, Tom did a good job and an honest effort on
Yeah.
amortization.
We don't, yeah. At the end of the day, a budget is a bit of a moving target, and it's our best guess to.
I laugh about it. We build numbers to put in front of people 3 months from now that will take effect 3 months after that, based on the numbers that we have from 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah, trying to estimate what's gonna happen
Wow.
between now and July 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a real,
It
Sticky
is
work.
pretty bizarre. 'cause
it is.
Even the
It
state
is.
budget, you come in 6 months into the budget, you do an adjustment.
Well,
You know,
yeah, and I think we can, you know, if we're going, especially if we're doing away the opposite auditor.
Yeah,
We're doing an annual audit, whether we want to or not. And I think if we can use an audited figure, a lot of the guesswork goes away, you know, you're just using,
There's a whole column that disappears.
yeah. Yeah,
It would make it a lot easier.
it would.
are other towns doing that?
Yeah.
Using audited numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we get away with not doing that?
It's just a different way of doing the same thing. And like by having, did you see how Evan made one column always adjust? By the board accepting reservation that has one number flexible, then whatever you land at the end of the year, that's the one that adjusts. The rest of them stay the same, so you can feel confident in it.
The reason we ended up in this interesting way of doing things is we used to do audits every other year. So we never had an annual audited. So we were always a year, we were always 2 years. Or as much as 2 years.
Yeah.
Because every nonprofit that I work on the board of, get an
Probably
audited
have an
number
audit every year.
every
Yeah.
single year.
Yeah.
And being on the board, that's like your number one responsibility.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
let's
You're
look at these audited numbers and know that. I
yeah,
mean,
nonprofits, we can cut. a
And you
bunch
get
of
a
those out.
report from your
If
auditor.
there's some-
yeah, and you have a private meeting
And
in
they have-
executive
yep.
session with the auditors and say,
And there's audit notes indicating what you should, maybe you should change this or change that, or, yeah.
yeah, we really grilled down on it.
Are we ready to talk about the warning?
Yeah,
Are we expected to sign this Monday?
It has to wait. Oh, yeah, the 28th is the time, yes.
The 20.
They have to have,
Because it's
they have to have
16.
petitions in by,
16.
Article 3, that's where people are gonna, various committees are gonna say a little spiel if they'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we gonna be, is this open for discussion, Mr. Chairman?
yeah, certainly.
Do you, is everybody comfortable with 13 and 14? Is the board behind this or is this gonna be kind of a long drawn out affair? Because we could have a lot of time invested in the town clerk. the town treasurer, and the auditor.
I certainly think it would shorten the meeting if we trimmed them.
Maybe it's something we could talk about next year. I was talking to a member of the finance committee from Cambridge recently. They do not do the select board's budget. They don't do the selectmen's
They
budget.
don't?
They don't. They do all the committees. And they do all of the equipment rotations. Which is odd to me. Because we take care of all the equipment rotations and everything else. And I don't think the committees are a real problem. You?
No.
Well, they're not much money.
Right, they're not much money, and I begin to wonder, do we really need an advisory committee? Financial advisory committee?
Honestly, my biggest concern about having a budget advisory committee would be finding people to serve on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I'm thinking the same thing, and even though it was kind of something that seemed kind of near and dear to me, I would move we scratch 13 and 14.
I'll second that.
rest of the board's good. I'm not approving it or disapproving it.
Okay.
I'm fine with scrubbing them. All right, scrub, Tom.
Scrubbed.
That was so quick. Can we delete more?
Are you gonna
happened so
substitute? You
quick.
got any substitutes you'd like to put in there?
None.
Well,
No
I can,
substitutes.
I can
No A to B?
tell you that
No.
there's a petition circulating by the beautification committee to establish a reserve fund. So we may see that by petition.
Mhm.
16th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I saw that somewhere in the.
Yeah, it was on
Facebook.
Facebook.
So the library met last week. I met with Peter about it, and then I talked with Kelly today. And I think this is the last language, if we could just. Shall the town establish a reserve fund for the purpose of offsetting future expenses? That part has been. Left no longer, just classified to future expenses by unexpended funds allocated by the library in accordance. So it's,
I think this gets back to an initial question I had a while ago. I would prefer if it referenced a line, not unexpended funds.
yeah,
If the library, they all work hard, I'm not taking this away from anybody, but let's say, they had a part-time librarian who gave notice for whatever reason, and they weren't able to fill that position for 6 months. They're using, that is an expense in the libraries.
Yeah.
Is salaries. So they're using taxpayers' money to pay for the salaries that they're not paying for, but they get to keep everything for that.
it stays in your control, so I think how I see this happening, is say there's an event like that. You would have a line, a revenue in the library too, that says, something that you could use to offset next year's expenses, so say. There's like 40,000 of unexpended salaries, you could just put it in next year's revenue line to reduce the total to be raised by that.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if it's unspent funds, we should be able to use it to reduce taxes.
Right.
The way that we're reserving stuff out right now.
It should be part of the cash on hand.
It should become part of the cash on hand. It shouldn't become part of a reserve fund. I totally understand.
Is there, we have a week, right? Is there some lines that you guys would be comfortable with? So then I can go to the library and, Peter, and just, we can.
Well, we're making Peter do it. He hasn't even
Well-
said anything
Could we,
about my reservations.
I'm happy to do it, I just wanna make sure, they're gonna ask Peter questions, so he's
Yeah.
gotta be,
Mark is our library liaison.
could we,
he's traded.
He's
could we
rated.
say,
What did we trade?
could we say unexpected funds exclusive of salaries?
Oh, that's interesting,
Oh,
cause that's not that much money in the end.
I mean, that
Uh,
definitely trims that one. I guess it doesn't exclude anything else.
It's an interesting.
See, I-
22, this whole thing of that. Because generally, people are, you know, like this, that they wanna spend every single penny. But they don't wanna have money loitering around at the end of the year because it gets taken away from them,
Right.
basically. So they establish a reserve fund that they get to keep,
Right.
which
I,
is. Maybe it's good, cause maybe it incentivizes them not to spend every penny.
yeah. I'm not condemning people here.
I understand that, neither am I, I'm just trying to. Wrap my mind around what's the way to do this that is rational.
To me, building maintenance, capital repairs, building capital expense,
Yeah,
equipment purchase and equipment capital. All fit, you know, if they underspend on postage, it's gonna be peanuts, but why are we rolling that into
I think,
this purpose?
I think we.
They can underspend on mileage or heat or phone.
Exclusion of salaries is probably the way to do it.
If the board only wants to exclude salaries, that's fine. I'm just explaining my thought process. I don't think we have anything else that sweeps a whole section and just says if we underspend, we get to keep all of it. Not that I'm opposed,
Understand.
yeah, right?
What are you gonna against the library?
I have nothing against them. They're all very hardworking
I just kidding.
and passionate.
Don't get worked up.
I feel a duty to
just thought
the
I'd throw that.
taxpayers
I
here.
just thought I'd throw it in there. I agree with what Mark said over there, though, that it's incentivizes people to set stuff aside rather than spending it on.
Yeah, and that kind of. You could look at that as a way to game the system. We'll budget a little more in the hopes that it can go into reserve.
Well, over budget.
Well,
I'm
you
not
know,
saying that would
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, no, I'm not, no, I
It cuts
don't,
both ways.
normally it probably wouldn't, but it does, yeah, it could happen.
you know, I have a rainy day account. That's what I call it. You know, and what's wrong with that?
Well, that would be called a line item in the budget. Library capital reserve
But
fund.
but that's their rainy day account.
Certainly, we're just talking about how to fund it.
Yeah.
I believe that, you know, if they run over on salaries because of, you know, personnel reasons, that doesn't really apply to a reserve fund need. I don't believe if they budget more for the phone than they spend, that's really a reserve fund. I believe that's just an operational expense, any operational expense, I guess. You know, they budget $100 a year for mileage and typically don't spend that, and that's fine. I just think that's an operational expense, not a capital type expense, and those are the ones that in my mind should fund the reserve fund. You could just put it as a line item, and we could just
would you
chuck a line in
get
there.
behind equipment capital, building, maintenance and repairs and building capital expense?
Yeah, it was equipment, capital and repairs and building maintenance capital. and
I
repairs.
would too.
Yeah, I mean, and then
That's exactly what I said.
your point is very valid and it brings it up. Yeah,
Well, what about this? They're budgeting money through our budget from their funds. They're like Roger Jones, the Vanguard Fund. If for some reason, how does that work if they, you know, if they're bringing money in as revenue?
I think,
There's commingling of funds, which makes it a little.
I think we're gonna see some changes, that law in July that I sent out. I interpret that and I think, I don't know that it's been fully interpreted, but I see that any donations directly to the library should not show in our budget. That should show in their own fund that they have control over. And then any interest from their funds that they have control over shouldn't show in our budget, because I think it artificially inflates our revenue. I don't think that that's right.
I only laugh because, you know, let's look at brass tacks here, right?
It's peanuts.
The library revenue is
13,000 or
Yeah,
so.
yeah, an expense, we're talking almost $160,000.
Yeah.
I think,
10%.
I think the library is well funded.
But
Town
yes,
taxes.
but the bottom line is there is no segregation right now. Their expense budget does not necessarily relate to a significant portion of the revenue budget that shows is wholly within their control.
And I don't think that
Right.
it should show on the select board's budget, I guess. is my-
That I agree with, but
Let's
getting,
go raise our tax rate by 0.5%.
So Article 10, is there any gonna be word changes on it? You were talking about some word changes.
I think that's what, I think we're. So we should say to be funded by, and then name those three lines. Is that,
excess capital, excess, yep. I can agree with that, because what that does is, does not, if somebody quits in the middle of the year. And there's extra money there because of salary decreases, that shouldn't go into a reserve fund.
I don't think it should.
Yeah, so we've got 4 heads doing this.
Well, this new wording sounds a lot better.
And
To
I'm,
be funded by excess, and then you're gonna list the 3.
I'm gonna just suggest that they add, or you add, we add, and or
Requests.
a line item.
Yeah, I mean, I think the standard, can you look up? Not right now, last year's town warning. I think it said that, we could fund this from year-end surplus for all I care, if that's in the best interest of the taxpayers in the future. We should be able to do it.
Yes, that's a
And
good
it
point.
could be a bequest that comes to this. There's specific wording in the reserve fund that we formed last year for,
Yes,
right?
yeah, there are. I think Tom makes a good valid point, though. Some of the things like bequests or donations, those I think are under the purview of the library board of trustees.
Yeah, they
anyway.
never come into our.
Yeah,
budget.
so that should probably not be,
We could show it as revenue from them and expense into the fund if that's what they want.
but they can put that in their own fund,
They
essentially,
certainly can.
which I think was their preferred modus operandi.
I assume the historical society does the same thing.
to be funded by
Think,
unexpended
yes,
funds
but
from the library equipment capital,
the
building
town-
maintenance. Building capital expense lines of the
Make the
budget.
requests.
Well, library has a 501(c)(3).
Historical society, I'm sorry,
Can I just
that's
ask,
directly related to.
why are we limiting it to those 3? And not any unexpended funds except salary?
That's it. I was just trying to be mediator. Get to
That's
an answer.
because I was saying operational expenses in excess.
Uh-huh.
I don't think should go into the reserve fund, and this is just my personal belief, right? If they budget $1,000 for phone
Yep.
and they spend $900, that's $100,
End of our
in my opinion, of taxpayers' money. That should go back to the taxpayers, not into this reserve fund. That's my own personal belief.
What's the difference between that and the lines the 3 lines we're talking
I
about?
mean,
I'm just trying to.
Earmark.
because building repairs are a capital thing and capital equipment purchase is a capital.
Um,
But a reserve fund does not have to be limited to capital. It can cover operational expenses.
Can we go ahead and make an assumption here? Do you think that they're forming this to cover operational expenses?
I think they're.
Maybe we need some clarity on that.
I was told specifically that they want a reserve fund for, say they have a big project coming up, like maybe the building needs a new roof. Or they want to make updates to the children's area, that they have so when they come to the board to say, hey, we want to do this. We already have the money and it doesn't raise tax. That was the idea. So big projects that they can take on.
Could we almost call them capital projects?
I think that's their intention, but I don't think they want. I also got the idea that they didn't want to like tie their hands either. And so I think that's gonna be up to you right now, and it doesn't matter, whatever.
That's why I believe it should be those 4 lines.
So if they really wanna do that, I would at least advocate that we add line items. Because at some point in the future, they may wanna establish a line item. That would, when it's a line item, the money goes into the reserve fund.
Mhm.
Regardless of whether it's unexpended balance or not, it's
Mhm.
just, money that goes into the reserve fund. To Evan's point, this board or some future board could say that we've got $200,000 worth of surplus and the library wants a new roof. So we're gonna take 20,000 of our surplus and put it into the library's reserve fund, so the money will be there when it comes time. So I think that just adds flexibility
Mhm.
rather than tying anybody's hands.
Now, we added this so they didn't have to get a petition signed, correct?
We agreed to add it so that they did not need to go get a petition signed.
Okay, so if we're chopping this all up, this might not be really what they really wanted. And so if we're doing this at the 11th hour now, it doesn't give them much time to get a petition out there to get what they actually wanted.
You can amend reserve funds at future meetings.
Yeah. But, there's a group that really works hard over there, and I just, don't wanna wind them up.
I'm not trying to wind them up.
What do you say, Peter?
I don't think we're drifting too far from what they were looking for, do you, Tom?
No, and I think they're appreciative that it's here and that it's whatever, if you guys, whatever you wanna do, I'm gonna go to them and there might be some back and forth next Monday. But that's what I'm imagining, just say, hey, this is what the board felt, and the reasons are extremely valid, and they'll either come back with an argument or not, but I think it's still back and forth.
Okay,
Yeah.
We've got time we don't have to finalize this tonight.
No, but I would like to know. Which lines, if you're gonna keep it to lines or leave it the way it is. I think either if you're gonna narrow where it comes from, I should be able to tell them exactly that.
To me, get the temperature of the board. It's the 4 lines I recommended, plus, year-end surplus. Dedicated budget line item. That's the article.
I'm good with that being a proposal back to them. As a suggested
Peter's
modification.
okay with that proposal. Mark's got his thumbs up. Mike's got
I
his
think he had his
thumbs up.
middle finger up, but, oh.
wasn't my.
That was just toward my.
Nobody could see it on the owl. Are there
Did
any
Mark
other?
give me the finger?
No, I did not, I was doing it. Something was getting out.
I was just being bad.
What does the finger mean, Mike?
I'm supposed to take 2 fingers.
Great Britain.
What are the 4 lines? Capital equipment, building, capital expense, building maintenance.
And equipment repair.
Equipment repair.
That's the one right above. Here.
Winston
There's circle.
Churchill, when he started out with the V or victory,
Yeah,
remember?
There. They're circle.
somehow it got turned around.
Are there any other articles board members would like to talk about? We trimmed it up here.
I just was, what you picked up on relative to salaries. I totally get it. Thanks for
Oh.
that.
No problem.
The Article 3, because we had talked about, this wasn't gonna be a real knockdown drag out. But the way it says, to review the reports of the town officers and others as included in the town annual report. Well, do we want every one of these committees to read what's in their report? Or just to stand up and just give a little plug? Because this kind of looks a little open-ended to me.
It's,
That's the way it's
isn't that
always been,
generic?
okay.
That's just generic. That's what it always has been.
Okay,
If somebody wants to stand up it's their right.
Has this always been in here just exactly like this?
Yes, I think so.
He's only looking at the older people in the room for anybody that's watching. I haven't been alive as long as that wording's been that way.
But it's already been in there then,
It's
because,
always been in there.
because somebody asked me to put in the warning of vehicle that people could speak. So technically, it's already there.
Yeah,
Anybody, and maybe it's, Mike, why don't you stand up when David reads the article, why don't you stand up and say, if any of your committees want to make a pitch for your committee, now's your chance.
Right, because people never really pay a whole lot of attention to that. I don't think, do they?
no, no.
No, it's one of those that gets passed over
Boilerplate.
very quickly.
The question I have is somebody really prepared to speak about appointing a town clerk? And is Rosemary prepared to at least nod her head in approval? Because that is a big deal.
That one was gonna be on you.
Perfect. But, you know, and treasurer, both of them, it seems like, and I don't know about women, you know, Walter, I can see Walter Pomeroy standing up saying, what do you mean you're gonna eliminate the town auditor? But those
Is it a
two.
job you want?
No,
That's what I'd say to him. That's what I'd say to Walter if he said it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Mike, to your point, last year, the wording was a little different. It was to hear and act upon the reports of the town officers and those presented.
Right.
oh, did you just change that willy-nilly?
No, this is from Rosemary. I only had the ones in the bottom.
So this has been changed.
Well, we'll
Slightly.
just put it back to what it was.
Yeah, but it's
Tom, why are you changing it?
similar.
To hear and act.
Nobody,
So now you guys can review
But,
them.
yeah, I mean, to hear and act versus to review the reports of, doesn't make a lot of difference to me, but.
Yeah,
To
me neither.
hear, though, isn't that an invitation to read the report?
this could be a really long town meeting.
I think we're going down a wormhole here that,
We might need to start talking about dinners.
Let's do hear and
not
act.
just lunches.
Hear and act
Hear and
upon,
act, let's do it.
hear and act
We're
upon.
really shaking things
I
up.
think we're done well before noon time.
You
Not a chance.
do?
No way.
You're an optimist.
I guess you are, old boy.
Where
Well-
do you see the big hang up?
We gotta reserve time for our legislators, pizza time. right?
Big
Yeah.
hang up, the
They
budget.
can talk while everybody else is eating.
Yeah.
Nobody will pay any attention to them.
Well, they said they're gonna try.
Are
to
there
get
any
rid
other
of it.
questions on the warning? Because we are getting close. I'm not saying we necessarily have to sign it Monday, but if we don't sign it Monday, we're gonna have a special meeting to sign it. Obviously, the budgetary numbers need to go in
Can we,
through this article.
Let's do that.
can we sign the warning on the 20th?
Yeah.
Give us enough time.
I think we're gonna have a signature page in the last third page anyways, so you could sign that and then like approve edits after the fact if we had to.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done in the past too is come in and sign the
Yeah, we
warning.
motion to
individually,
approve it based on X,
Yeah.
and then we come in.
And then sign it.
I'm gonna change this here. The potluck thing. Just just say we're. Pizza and
All right,
pizza
you're,
will be served.
you're getting into the actual thing. You brought
But
your
it's
time.
dinner.
Thanks for looking at it, Duncan.
Anything more on the articles?
I did desserts and stuff.
At this point, our next item is future special budget meeting. Does the board actually feel like we need one?
Only if it gets done and then
I think
somehow the figures are different than what we
I
expect.
think there's a couple of formulas I wanna look at, but I'm fine with the number. That won't change the final number.
Yeah.
You like the extra meetings, so don't you?
No, especially
Mark likes them better.
Yeah.
on a night like tonight, no. it was in the middle of summer, we could sit outdoors or something.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Never done
not
that.
so bad. We
do
don't
that
generally
sometime.
get to do budgets in the middle of the summer.
No, but if we
Maybe
have,
we
we
should.
we could have an outdoor meeting sometime this coming summer.
We could,
Have it at the pizza oven.
hamburgers,
I'll
and
make you pizza.
there you
It's
go.
not a bad idea.
Why don't we do that?
I don't know what we would cover.
Why don't we have a select board meeting?
It
at
could
the
be a community,
Legion Hall sometime,
community support
Legion-
select board
Legion
meeting.
Field. What's that?
Could be like a community support select board meeting.
Sure,
Donate blood.
good.
Speed up.
Are we adjourned?
So,
No.
our meeting our meeting on the 20th, are we back to 6:30?
Yes,
The regular meeting.
can you send me the old agenda for that tomorrow?
For the
I'll be
20th?
there. Yeah. Doesn't need to happen right now, tomorrow. Last item is executive
On your paper.
session that was added by Duncan.
Email.
I've moved to enter executive session under one BSA 313 for the board on.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike seconded it. Seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the board is entering executive session at 7:42.